Welcome to the Galactic News Network. I'm your host Watton, and in today's news broadcast, while war rages on in the galaxy, we have a very special interview directly with the one leading the charge against the silent screams. Greetings, Queen Charlotte. Welcome to the Galactic News Network studios.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, we have a lot to discuss in our limited time for today, and I'm sure that you have a very busy schedule managing this war. But shall we start with what are your reasons for this war, and pulling in the rest of the galactic community to fight against the dream of silent screams?
So this kind of ties into the history, so not to get ahead of ourselves, but we've known for a while through several testimonies that the Dream of Silent Screams was preparing to declare war on the galaxy as a whole, and we're planning on building the aetherphasic engine, which would ultimately destroy the galaxy. So we've had a good idea of what their goal is, their identity, and their relation to the Eater of Worlds is for quite a while now. The main reason we decided to declare them crisis when we did was one of their plans was to lower the imperial authority of the galaxy and to declare a rebellion in order to take their allies out of opposition with them. And we noticed that, and so our plan to counteract that was to support the Imperium, and that didn't work out very well. I don't remember what the authority was when we declared them the crisis, but it was within rebellion range. And so we decided to act right then and there and declare them the crisis before the rebellion can happen. This way, all their allies that are part of the Imperium cannot declare war upon the allied powers against dreams, and they can't fight for the dreams. So that's why we did it then and there.
Sweet. So what do you know about the Dream of Silent Screams? Their history and formation?
Yeah, their full history. So a lot of this we only learned a little after we defeated the Unbidden. A lot of this information came from the Cosmic Unbound Domain and Alpha Existence. So, first of all, their history goes back to around 2200 when we all discovered the FTL drive around the same time. We don't know exactly which dates they contacted the Cosmic Unbound Domain and Alpha Existence on, but somewhere near the beginning, when they first contacted these nations, they offered them a proposal, and that was they wanted their help in their war that they were planning against the galaxy. They had been planning this war since the very beginning, essentially. And so they drew in the Cosmic Unbound Domain and Alpha Existence as their allies. They would secretly side with the Dream of Silent Screams when the time came. And they did it for different reasons. For Alpha Existence, they did it because they saw it as the only way to permanently defeat their destroyers. And for the Cosmic Unbound Domain, they were promised that the Dream of Silent Screams would preserve at least one member of each species within the galaxy for their preserve. It would preserve the soul of a member of each species, and so therefore they would be helping complete their preserve. So those were the original reasons why Alpha Existence and Cosmic Unbound Domain joined up with the Dream of Silent Screams.
Regarding
also at the same... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Regarding the Alpha Existence destroyers, we have heard that it was, I believe, the Phoetecian, yes, you with the Phoetecian Holy Kingdom, that aided them in actually destroying their destroyers?
Yeah, we were the nation that destroyed the portal.
Which is what led to the Alpha Existence actually joining your side in the war. And I presume this is where you gained some of your information, which led you to your fight against the Dream of Silent Screams?
Yeah, so out of character, this would have been before the last session, like a little bit before the last session. But in character, it was around the time, like a little after we destroyed their portal. We gained this, surprisingly, we learned of this information from the Cosmic Unbound Domain first. They were talking with us and encouraging us to pay reparations for destroying a void cloud that we had destroyed very early on in our history, around the year 2240 or so. And the conversation took a few turns, and surprisingly, they revealed pretty much everything they knew about the Dream of Silent Screams and their allies. What they called them the Dream Loyalists. And these parties included themselves, obviously, Alpha Existence, and they also included Impericor, so Song of Reverence, and the adherents of the goddess. And then a little while after, we learned of the same information from Alpha Existence.
See.
But yeah, so I'll continue the story, and if you have any other questions, you can feel free to interrupt me at any point.
Go ahead.
So, around the time that they were recruiting Cosmic Unbound Domain and Alpha Existence, they were creating a plan to draw in the supporters of the goddess. So that would have been Volusia's Children, Song of Reverence, and the adherents of the goddess. And this plan required them to plot the death of the Tianki matriarch, which was their goddess. And by doing so, they would now hold leverage over them. They could offer a way to revive the goddess using the power of the Shroud. Or if not that, then they could simply replace themselves as the goddess of their religion. The reason for adherents of the goddess and Song of Reverence joining the Dream of Silent Screams it's been somewhat unclear to us. We've heard several different stories, both from Cosmic Unbound Domain and Alpha Existence. But for one reason or another, the Dream had a plan to turn both of these nations by killing the Tianki matriarch. So yeah, fast forward to around the time the Unbidden are unleashed. They spawned within Alpha Existence territory, and it was around that time that the Dream of Silent Screams offered Alpha Existence a deal. They offered to pay Alpha Existence 20,000 energy credits to kill the Tianki matriarch. And at the time, Alpha Existence was very desperate for help. Their portal had spawned very close to their homeworld, and things were looking very grim for them. Luckily for them, their fleets hadn't targeted any of their worlds, but at the time, it seemed like nobody could even get close to their portal until, in their arrogance, they left it undefended. But they took the deal, and they killed the Tianki matriarch. And then shortly after that, the Dream of Silent Screams contacted both Impericor and the adherents of the goddess and drew them to their side. We don't know why they didn't contact Volusia's Children. They left that task up to Impericor and adherents of the goddess. But regardless, that is another source of our information. Is shortly after drawing Impericor and adherents to their side, those two nations contacted Volusia's Children, and Volusia's Children denied their requests to aid the Dream of Silent Screams. And they instead turned to the kingdom and confided in us all this information as well. So those three nations in particular are basically where we've gotten most of our information about the Dream's plans. And then leading up to the war that we're in now, the Dream's original plan was to dismantle the Imperium through rebellion, and then once all of its allies were out of conflict with it, then it would launch its crusade against the galaxy. And so our plan as the allies was to support the Imperium and prevent the rebellion, but that didn't really work out well, so we ended up having to declare the Dream of Silent Screams the crisis before we wanted to. And that pretty much sums up the history of the Dream of Silent Screams. As soon as I learned about this League of Allies, I started assembling my own League of Allies. Pretty much everyone that wasn't a loyalist got contacted by the kingdom at some point or another. The only nations that were excluded from this were the Great Soldorian Empire, the United Galactic Republic, and I think the Tyrannic Confederation are the only nations that we didn't contact. We didn't contact a few others simply because we didn't think that they were trustworthy, and they might have been too close to the Dream of Silent Screams. Even now, we think that the United Galactic Republic is a pawn of the Dream of Silent Screams. They were a big reason as to why the authority of the Imperium decreased, even though we told them not to decrease it. We encouraged them to increase it, but they just ignored us anyways. So we either think they're what's the political word for calling someone dumb?
Incompetent?
Yes, incompetent. They're either incompetent or they're a traitor, and we can't figure out which one it is.
Well, that's certainly been a nice name.
So yeah, that's pretty much all we know. We're pretty sure that most of this information is correct, given that we got it from 2 inside sources that were close to the Dream of Silent Screams, and then of course Felucia's children, who were contacted by the other 2 loyalists. Some of it might be incorrect or outdated, but that's pretty much the history that we know of.
Okay. So, in a way, you're staging a rebellion against the Emperor by solidifying the bonds of the Empire.
Yeah, that was the plan. If the Imperium stayed together, the Emperor can't declare wars against Imperium members, and if we declare the Crisis War, which we did, then members can't declare war against each other, I don't think. So that would basically stop them from aiding the Dream of Silent Screams, which has worked out pretty well so far. We doubt that our luck will hold out. Right now, the Imperial Authority is at a grand 5. So we assume that the adherents of the goddess or some other loyalist is trying to spark a rebellion right now. And once that happens, we'll have to fight both the Dream of Silent Screams and their loyalists.
With that covered, what are your plans going forwards?
So, as we see it, there are 3 main threats to galactic stability, and we'll go over them in order of importance. The first, obviously, is the Dream of Silent Screams. They are literally holding the means to destroying the galaxy in their home system right now, and we're trying to stop them from doing that by destroying their fleet and destroying their entire empire. Unfortunately, they have quite a bit of firepower on their side, so it's definitely going to be a very slow and tedious war. We've been able to take a lot of their frontier systems, but as we get closer to their core, especially their home system, that will be very difficult to take without engaging in a direct confrontation, and we want to avoid that at all costs right now. The kingdom took heavy losses in its first engagement in the ambush in Paunia in an attempt to defend Seoul. Our fleets are currently about... Our fleet power ranking is at about 700,000, which is less than half of what the Dream of Silent Screams currently has. So our goal in dealing with them is to continue building our fleet back and eventually engage them again and hopefully win this time. The second threat to galactic stability is the adherents of the goddess. They've been just destroying worlds, former slug labor limited worlds, and unfortunately we just haven't had a good opportunity to address them. If we had tried to address them before the war, we fear that the Dream of Silent Screams would have intervened and would have tried to strike back against us. So our hands were kind of tied there. But once the Dream of Silent Screams has been dealt with, we will address the threat that is the adherence of the goddess.
More pressing issues first.
Yeah. And then the third threat is the remaining Unbidden fleets. Some members of the galaxy are already dealing with them. The adherents are dealing with them simply because they're close to their territory. The Veletarian Star Alliance is also dealing with them because they've been attacking their territory. So they're being slowly whittled away. But they're low in priority simply because in their arrogance, they are not very well organized, and they no longer possess the means to reinforce themselves. So it's not like they're growing in strength.
Merely a battle of attrition, in a way.
Yeah. We don't deem them a high threat simply because of their intelligence.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah.
We also understand, though, that you have been able to take right up to the borders of their home system, although that's not direction. Although, yeah, their home system is on the edge of their core systems, but still.
Yeah, after our defeat in Pawnia, we quickly repaired our fleets and then went to strike against their core. Because of the existence of the L gates, and also because of a wormhole in Alpha territory, our position, it appears as though we're on the opposite side of the galaxy as them, but in reality, our home systems are maybe 10 or so systems away from each other. So we were able to strike very quickly against their core. Unfortunately, we weren't able to take their home system before they responded. They were able to draw back enough fleets to defend it that we didn't want to risk jumping into the system and losing another engagement. So we were forced to withdraw from that front temporarily.
Yes, I understand that there were also some issues with sensors not being able to penetrate the nebula, which their home system is in, leading to the loss of some fleets not realizing that there was a massive fleet in their home system.
Yeah, Alpha Existence in particular lost a lot of fleets in that blunder. The kingdom actually has a lot of intelligence gathered on the Dream of Silent Screams, and so even though their home system is in a nebula, we can actually see which fleets are positioned there. So we didn't make that blunder, but we didn't realize that some of our allies didn't have that same information, and so we didn't. That was a lack of cooperation on our part. We didn't share that, which we should have.
Is there anything else you can think of?
Nope, I think that we mainly undertook this interview to out the history of the Dream of Silent Screams. So if you know more questions, then I believe that we're done for now.
One last one which I can think of. So you mentioned that you were planning on building up your fleet to re-engage the Dream of Silent Screams fleet. Are you planning on doing more economic warfare to try to whittle down their resources?
That is definitely the plan right now. From what we've learned, the biggest hit to their economy right now has been their Dyson Spear that's currently under our control, specifically Volusia's children. We hope that whittling down their economy will severely weaken them. However, we're not too optimistic about that. From what we understand from Alpha's intel, besides energy credits, their economy has basically remained unaffected, and that's because we've taken mostly frontier planets with low populations. So most of their population is still under their control. So we actually haven't done that much damage to their economy. It looks like we've done a lot of damage, but we haven't. So if we want to deal more damage, then we'll have to engage their core systems and take them. But hopefully that will weaken their fleet.
Alright, well, thank you very much for joining us in our studios today. We wish you best of luck in saving our galaxy from destruction, including our studios. That would be against our best interest if it was to be destroyed. So,
Yeah.
Yes, hopefully next time we see you, you'll be victorious.
Yeah, if we interview again, it will probably not be because we lost. We'll probably be dead and won't be able to interview at that point. Yeah, the kingdom will not give up this fight. We may have taken a defeat early on, but we're rebuilding, and we will either fight until we win or fight until there is no more kingdom to fight for.
Right. That's all the time we had there. We hope our viewers appreciated this special interview with one of the galaxy's most influential leaders. Until next time, I've been your host, and this is Galactic News Network.